It takes time for the new to feel familiar. That's the message from the moon on this full moon we have happening in Taurus on November 5th, 2025. Taurus is an earth sign. It's all about our physical world, and it's the sign that falls in the middle of spring. It's a time of year when we're nurturing new crops that have been planted. And in our lives, this sign represents nurturing the structures that support us and sustain our lives. What resources do you have available? Ensuring the sustainability of those and developing new ways for you to not only survive, but thrive. There is a really beautiful story that is unfolding with this full moon, one that began 18 months ago on the Taurus New Moon of May 7th, 2024. Now, today I'm going to get into all of that and how to embrace the change this full moon is bringing. Hi, I'm Laura Custo. I'm the moon phase astrologer, and this is the Moon Method. You know, I gave this show that title, The Moon Method, a number of months ago, and I abandoned it to keep things simple. But as of late, through the comments I've been getting from all of you, I realized I needed to bring back the Moon Method because that's ultimately what I do. I am not your run-of-the-mill astrologer. I have more than 2 decades of experience working in corporate America and a degree in engineering. I love math. I mean, honestly, geometry and calculus are kind of my love languages. And I've made a living developing efficient systems and solutions that allow people to thrive in the business world. And that's all well and good, but what really lights me up is how we can thrive in our personal lives. And I've been a student of many spiritual modalities, and I love them all, but what most of them lack are the frameworks that many people need to feel comfortable exploring them. So I'm here to change all of that. I build spiritual systems for strategic minds, and our starting point in all our weekly frameworks is the moon. It's our closest celestial neighbor. It moves the most and it has the most to say, but it also has a predictable, repeatable pattern, one that oversees our emotions and pulses through each of us. We've just never been taught to hear it. So in that vein, if you haven't yet, go on over and grab my free guide. It's called the Moon Phase Compass. In that guide, I break down the rhythm of the moon and I teach you how to hear it and how to work with it. It is simple foundational knowledge that will enable you to start working with the moon's energy right away. And the best part, like I said, the moon's rhythm is repeatable. It repeats every single month, actually. So this guide, it will never become irrelevant. It's free. Grab it at lauracusto.com/guide, and there'll be a link for that at the top of the show notes. All right. Okay, thank you. That was quite an intro, I know. Thank you for bearing with me. I wanted to be sure I covered off that little title change that you're probably noticing. Okay, let's dig in. We are talking about the Taurus full moon. It's happening November 5th, and the message from the moon. It takes time for the new to feel familiar. And this is all about learning to embrace change. What are we talking about here? I mentioned that Taurus is about structures that sustain and support our lives. It's about our resources, our skills, our money, what we have available to us to sustain our lives. And in that vein, if you really think about it, in order to be able to show up and use your skills, as well as learn new skills and earn a living, you have to have support. You have to have a solid foundation. You know, it's really, really hard to keep going if you don't have that kind of stability in your life. Like, where do you live and sleep? Who do you live with? What kind of an environment do you live in? Work in? What do you do every day? Now, the story that's unfolding this full moon in Taurus, it also involves the planet that oversees structure, and that is Saturn. In the last 18 months, the moon has had 2 other key moon phases in Taurus, and on both of them, and on this full moon as well, Saturn has been present in a really beautiful and, yes, strategic way. Strategic how, you may ask? Well, it's been driving change to your structures. And on this full moon, it's very likely that those structures will become more visible. An entirely new structure could be revealed. a new layer to something that has started to change, or perhaps you finally realize that something's changed a while ago and you're only now realizing it. So let's break it down. Learning how to embrace change in 3 steps using the energy of this full moon. Step 1, do your homework. Get your bearings. This is a typical step 1 in all of my frameworks for working with the moon. We want to understand where are we at in the moon cycle and what has brought us here. The moon follows a predictable pattern, one that we can tie back to key dates. So on this full moon, it's happening at 13 degrees Taurus. We want to look back to 2 key dates. The last new moon near 13 degrees Taurus and the last time we had a first quarter moon near 13 degrees of Taurus. So the new moon was May 7th, 2024. That would have been when you would have set intentions consciously, in which case you want to go back and pull up those notes, or unconsciously, because we are always working with the energy. We're always putting energy out, even if we don't think about it. So go back and look at that date, May 7th, 2024. Look in your calendar, look in your emails and your photos, just get a sense what was going on. And even more, even if you have notes and you were conscious, find out what was your energy, what was your state of being, what were your dreams, what was your self-talk? Were you in a good mood? Were you positive, or were you a little negative? Okay. The second date is the first quarter date, which was February 5th, 2025. On that date, you want to pinpoint what you did. What actions did you take, commitments made, things you moved along, things you stopped, but specifically, how were you interacting with others in the external world? This isn't about thinking, it's about actually doing things, okay? So the new moon, we tell the moon something, whether we're energetically doing it or we're also writing it down and we're conscious of it. And then on the first quarter, we're showing the moon, okay? Here's the thing. This is also happening in a specific area of life based on your unique chart. The sign of Taurus. Does it oversee your love life, your career, your health, your money? If you have your chart and you know your chart, go grab it and go figure out what that area of life is. Now, if you don't, I have 2 ways I can help you, and they're super simple. Number 1 is through a short course that I developed called Moon Map. In this course, I take you through the steps to get what I call your map, and it will tell you the area of life that Taurus oversees for you. It'll also tell you all the other 11 zodiac signs, and so you can use this map on every single moon phase for the rest of your life. That is at lauracusto.com/map. The second way I can help you is through my membership called Moon Chat. Now, Moon Chat makes this all really, really easy. All you do when you sign up is you input your birth details, and then the system knows which astrology sign rules every area of your life. And then 2 days before each moon phase, you get an email custom for you, letting you know what the moon phase is, the key dates around it. You get a special message from me, one that I don't talk about in these videos, and I tell you the area of life that it oversees. You can find more information on that at lauracusto.com/membership. Now, I'll put a link for both of those at the top of the show notes. Check them out if they sound good to you. All right. So that is step 1. We're doing our homework. We're figuring out what was happening, getting our clues, and perhaps also zeroing in on the area of life to pinpoint this even more precisely. Now, step 2, stay present and look for the structure. What do I mean by that? Well, what I'm talking about here is the part of learning to embrace the change where you're noticing what has changed. The change is being revealed, which is what is likely to transpire on this full moon, okay? The full moon is a culmination point. The cycles of the moon are often explained using the analogy of a garden. We plant seeds on the new moon, we water them on the first quarter, and then we see what we've grown on the full moon. Did we bloom a big, beautiful flower? Or is it a weed? That's the full moon. So what you do is you look at those dates from step 1, the things that you said and did, and in the days around this full moon, you pay attention to what is happening. This isn't a time to take big, bold action or plan strategic moves. That's the first quarter, right? This is a time to be present and participate in life. So we show up for our family and friends. We get out in the community. We go to that dinner party that you were invited to, or you host a dinner party. It's definitely a time to be social, but it's also a time to be fully present with yourself, to be self-reflective of what is going on and what's happening around you and within you. And be on the lookout, back to Saturn here, for structural changes in your life. Notice the structures that you have. How have they changed since early May 2024? Was there a defining moment when we think about the first quarter back in February of this year? And specifically, I'm going to say, how have they simplified? How have they been streamlined? Were there things perhaps that were really layered and complex in the structures of your life that just went away and maybe you've had to rebuild them? Okay, I'm going to explain why. Again, it's back to Saturn, but what's up with this simplification, right? Okay, well, back in May of 2024, when the moon was new at about 13 degrees of Taurus, Saturn was making a harmonious angle with the moon. So your intentions were infused with that positive energy coming from Saturn. Then on the first quarter in February, Saturn was also in a harmonious angle with the moon. So it was helping you take action on that first quarter. And you guessed it, on this full moon, it's again in a harmonious angle with the moon. So we're just harmony with Saturn here, right? Now to top it off, back to this whole simplification of structures. Well, that isn't just because of Saturn. It's because of the sign that Saturn is in, which is Pisces, okay? Pisces is this flowy, disseminating energy water sign. And normally what Saturn energy likes to do in most signs is it gets really responsible and strategic and it builds things, okay? It builds them up. But in Pisces, it's still responsible and it's still strategic, but it's doing the opposite. It is looking at what doesn't work and it helps dissolve them. So this is step 2 here. We're going to be present, participate, pay attention to what is changing and noticing what has changed structurally. Okay, now step 3. Now we're going to really get into learning how to embrace this change, because we couldn't be here at step 3 and be here in a really good way if we didn't do steps 1 and 2. Because here's the thing, Taurus is very foundational. It's about having a strong foundation in life. Clarity is really important with Taurus. It's a very thorough sign, all right? It's ruled by Venus, which rules love and beauty, but it also rules quality. Taurus energy, it doesn't build a house on a swamp or on a fault line, all right? It's responsible. And so is Saturn. Saturn is about life lessons and putting in the work that we need to really appreciate and earn to be able to fully embody the growth that you've worked towards. So Saturn, it will also show you on the flip side where you haven't done your work. And so if you're now here in step 3 and you're looking at the structures of your life and how they've changed during the last 18 months and you're thinking, oh, this actually isn't good. And you're maybe feeling a little disappointed here and wondering what to do next. Well, I want to just let you know, I do have some good answers for that too, okay? Saturn is currently retrograde. That means it's moving backwards in the sky relative to how we see it here on Earth. Energetically, what that means is that it's going back over things and it will eventually move forward again. And when it does that, it will finalize everything that it's been dissolving and simplifying structurally. It will stay in this retrograde until November 28th, 2025, so just less than a month away. And it will be going over repeat ground until March 3rd, 2026. So keep that in mind if you're not loving the new structures in your life at this full moon. And then from November 28th until March 3rd of 2026, actively work towards improving your structures. Put in the work. Do your part. This is Saturn. Saturn has the energy of the responsible parent. It requires you to show up, and it wants to see you succeed, and it wants you to be self-sufficient. But again, you have to show up. You have to be responsible and do your part. And when you do your work, Saturn gives you results. Okay? So now let's go back to embracing the change. Here's the thing. When things change, even if you're really happy about the change, it can often feel off, right? Things can feel not right, not normal, and you can feel out of sorts, especially if the change is structural and it involves changes to your everyday environment, okay? Changes to those Taurus-related things that I spoke of at the top of the show, those things that support your ability to thrive in life, your home, your family, what you do for a living, and where you make your living. And here's the key to embracing the change, okay? That feeling is healthy. It's a sign that things are actually normal when you don't feel right away about change. Change is always going to feel off and weird for a little while. That's because our human nervous systems have been conditioned to interpret what is familiar as safe, and what is unfamiliar and new is unsafe. So even though what may have changed may be very, very good, your nervous system only is able to interpret it as danger, 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 okay, for at least a little while. It's going to take time. And over time, every day, one day at a time, it will become less and less new and more familiar, okay? And you'll ease into it being your new normal. And in my experience, the most helpful thing in learning how to embrace change is just simply being aware of this dynamic. Because without awareness, you would simply be experiencing a change that your mind is really happy about, thinks it's amazing, but your body is screaming danger, right? And you have this really awful, uneasy feeling charging through your body inside. And then on the outside, you're smiling and going about your business. You know, you're interacting with everyone because you're supposed to be happy, but you've got that disconnect. So you will have that. You'll have that disconnected feeling, but you will know why it's there now, and you know it'll pass. And then that knowledge should help you feel really pretty good, right? Now, one last note, I want to address all those of you who may be looking at your potentially not so great situation, right? Or maybe it's just average. Well, in this case, your thoughts, what's going through your mind, will match your feelings a little closer, right? Your body will be shouting danger, we've got change, and your mind will be saying, yeah, I hate this. So in this case, the answer to learning how to embrace this change, well, first of all, it also comes down to awareness. Your state of mind is a state of discomfort. You don't like the outcome. And your body is in a state of discomfort, right? It's unfamiliar to the nervous system and it's shouting danger. But here's the thing, the same dynamic applies. Every day, this change will still become less and less new and more familiar. So don't get stuck. Time is of the essence. Use that Saturn retrograde and subsequent forward motion. November 28th through March 3rd is the time to make new changes. Okay? You've got this. Okay. I hope that's been helpful and you're feeling really prepared to navigate this full moon in Taurus, whatever changes life presents to you. Okay? I hope you feel you're ready to do this with a lot of clarity and confidence, as well as full presence, right? That's what the full moon's about. And with that, I would love to hear from you. What is coming up for you? What structures have you noticed have changed? And have structures simplified? Has anything completely dissolved? Drop that in the comments below. All right, I'm sending you lots of love on this Taurus full moon. Remember, it takes time for the new to feel familiar. Give it time. And if you don't like what's new, don't take too much time to change it. And until next week, as always, take care.